Now that we know how to interpret our function and how our graphs are going to change, we're ready to go ahead and sketch these. There is more accurate ways that we can do these, but as long as we understand the movement, this is all I'm going to expect. It's very bare bones, nice, easy way to represent these transformations of our functions. So first thing I'm going to do with my cosine over here is I'm going to factor out, I'm not going to, that's great language. I'm going to factor out the 1/3, okay? So this just becomes y equals 2 times the cosine of 1/3 theta plus, I'm going to have to times this by 3, so I'm going to get pi over 2. So what happens if I distribute this back in, it becomes the pi over 6. And I've got the minus 2 on the end there. Okay, so now that I've done this, I am ready to, what's the word? Interpret. There we go. Let's find our key features. So first thing I know, the amplitude is 2. I have a vertical shift. I'm going to go down 2. I have a phase shift. I'm going to go to the left, pi over 2. And the period, I'm going to see 1/3 of my cycle in 2 pi. So 2 pi over 1/3 is going to give me 6 pi. So now I have all the key information. I'm going to go ahead and plot that. Watch what happens. So it's going to have to start at some line. And it's going to start at negative pi over 2 because I shifted left, pi over 2. Then it's going to have to end somewhere. So what I'm doing here is I'm just graphing one cycle. So from the start to the end, I went left negative pi over 2, and I have to cover a distance of 6 pi. So that's 12. So this is going to end at 11 pi over 2. So this distance between them is my 6 pi. Does that make sense? So where does my cycle start? Where does my cycle end? Because it's covering this 6 pi. All right, the midline of my graph, we're going to move this up or down, and since I moved it down 2, this is going to be at negative 2. Does that make sense? So from here we move down 2, and I have an amplitude of 2. So that means the maximum point is going to be 0, and the minimum point is going to be negative 4. Because I'm going to go 2 above and 2 below my midline because of that amplitude. So there's my left, there's my period length, here's my vertical shift, and here's my amplitude. So I'm going to go ahead and split this into fourths, and we're dealing with a cosine graph. Cosine starts at the maximum value. So it starts here at the top, and then it's going to go to 0, negative 1, 0, back to 1. And here's my cosine sketch. Okay? So again, this is just very bare bones, but it's showing the understanding of these transformations. I understand I went left, pi over 2. I'm going to complete one cycle in 6 pi, so it's going to end at 11 pi over 2. Vertical shift of negative 2 with an amplitude of 2 giving me my maximum at 0 and my minimum at negative 4. Okay, if you want to give this one a try on your own, see what you can come up with, come back and check your answer, see if you did it all right. So, with this one, I'm going to start by factoring again. So I'm going to factor out this 3. So if I divide by 3, I'm going to have to divide this by 3, which is going to change this to 5 pi over 18. Factoring out that 3 is like the same as multiplying by 1/3. So all I did was multiply that fraction by 1/3. So now I'm ready to interpret here. I've got my amplitude at 3. I have my vertical shift. I'm going to move up 1. I've got my phase shift. I'm going to move to the right 5 pi over 18. And the period, I'm going to see 3 sine waves in 2 pi. So that gives me a period length of 2 pi over 3. Now I'm ready to sketch. So again, even if you just start out, here's the skeleton of my sine wave. Very basic, very simple. So if I move to the right 5 pi over 18, and I have to cover 2 pi over 3. I'm going to have to add these together to see where I'm going to end up. And to do that, I'm going to need a common denominator. So I've got 5 pi over 18. I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 6 to get 12 pi over 18. Yeah? So that tells me my wave is going to complete at 17 pi over 18. To go from 5 pi over 18 and cover 2 pi over 3, I'm going to end at 17 pi over 18. I have a vertical shift. I'm going to go up 1, and then I have an amplitude of 3. So this is going to go up to 4 and down to -2. Then I'm going to split this into fourths, and we're dealing with a sine wave, so I'm going to start at 0. So I'm going to go 0, maximum, 0, minimum, back to 0, and here is that sine wave. Just a sketch, nothing fancy. Go forth, practice. Let me know if you have questions.